welcome to Dan Smith Ego Fest 2017. For the next 75 minutes, you get to watch me jerk myself off. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not an actor. I really am not. Can I see all my performance majors? Raise your hand if you're a performance major. These guys are the real actors. I'm what they call a director. It's my job to watch them do the work and take all the credit. That's essentially what I do. So, just to give you an idea as to what we're working with here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be obsessing over one of my favorite stories ever told, and that would be Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Now, I mean this, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is the greatest fictional narrative ever written. And I also want you to know that this is absolutely not Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol I am holding in my hand. Believe it or not, the Wagner College Library actually does not have a print copy, because what this looks like to me is this looks like something that you would get out of communist Russia. I feel like you would actually walk up to the State Department and you would say something like, "I would like a book," and they would say, "Book." Seriously. But, so just to give you an idea, I first want to ask the question, how many of you have actually read the novella Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol? We have a sizable crowd, but with that said, how many of you have seen in some way, shape, or form an adaptation of Charles Dickens? Exactly. And that's the really interesting thing, is that there are 1,000,001 adaptations of A Christmas Carol, and I have seen every single one.
You lost.
I need an adaptation. Someone give me one.
Isn't it like the
Scrooge!
Scrooge starring Bill Murray, really, really good film. Carol Kane, who also plays the landlady on Kimmy Schmidt, she happens to be in that one as well. Really good flick. Any others?
Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse is a really great one. It came out in 1984. The really interesting thing about that adaptation is the first time that Mickey Mouse actually appeared in a 30-plus minute cartoon in over 30 years. And it's also really good because it really hits the heartstrings, even though it's only a 30-minute compact film. One more. Somebody give me one more adaptation.
One with Jim Carrey.
One with Jim Carrey, 2009, directed by Robert Zemeckis, who happened to also direct Back to the Future, 2 time travel movies. What do you think of that? Really interesting film. The animation and CGI are absolutely supreme, and it follows the narrative like nothing else, but in my personal opinion, I just feel like it misses all of the heart of the story. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. So you named a couple of the really good ones, but I just want to take you through a couple of really... I know. You fucking know me. You know what this next one is. I want to take you through just some noble adaptations of the classics. So we have the Alistair Sim film version in 1951, considered by most to be a classic. In my opinion, he's tied with only one other person, and that would be George C. Scott in the 1984 adaptation. We also have Mr. Magoo, Razzleberry Dressing for the Win. Yes. Amazing musical adaptation, the greatest musical adaptation in my opinion. We have Scrooge in 1970, starring Albert Finney. He's the guy who played Warbucks and Annie. My personal opinion, he was way too young to be playing the role. They did him up in some god-awful makeup. Doesn't really work. We have A Christmas Carol short in 1971. This actually won the Oscar and also starred Alistair Sim over 21 years later, reprising the role that he played in the original film. Again, the George C. Scott version, a lot of people think it's actually a feature film that was shown on the big screen. It was actually produced by CBS and was syndicated on that, and now TBS actually holds the rights to that adaptation. The Flintstones did it in 1994. They tied in a really fun superstructure of the Bedrock Bug. Really incredible. Go check it out. We have the Madison Square Garden version, which ran for 10 years. Incredible Scrooges played the role. My personal favorite is always going to be Tony Randall. We also have Patrick Stewart did a version in 1999, produced by TNT, after he did a series of one-man show versions of it on Broadway. And rounding out, we have the Disney 2009 version, and that's absolutely everything you need to know about Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol in media form. Thank you. Before we get into telling the story, I just want to give a little bit of context on why Dickens wanted to write this peculiar little story. That was actually the term that he used to describe it, was a peculiar little story. Has anybody actually read Dickens' work here? I know some people read A Christmas Carol. Was anyone read up on Dickens? Dickens was absolutely incredible. He was regarded to be one of the greatest social commentators of his time. He was actually, as a child, he grew up in privilege in an upper middle class family. But at the age of 11, his father was sent to a debtor's prison, and he was sent to live in a boot-blacking factory. And all of the other boys who worked in that factory, because he was educated, referred to him as the little gentleman. And so what's so interesting about Dickens' formative years is the fact that he sort of had the exact opposite ends of the spectrum when it came to his upbringing. He knew what it was to come from privilege, but at the same time, he also knew what it was to be at the absolute bottom run. And so when it came to the kind of works that Dickens produced, they all tended to be in the vein of social justice and social commentary. The first big hit he would have was Oliver Twist, and that made him an absolute household name. However, his biggest failure up until 1846, when he wrote A Christmas Carol, was a little book called Martin Chuzzlewit. Now, with a name like Martin Chuzzlewit, what could possibly go wrong? It didn't sell, his publishers dropped him, and it was then that Dickens went and he visited a coal mine where he actually saw children, no older than 10, working underground. And it was then that he began to get involved in a lot of different charitable organizations and social advocacy groups that had to do with child labor laws. He visited the treadmills, he visited the poorhouses, the workhouses, debtors' prisons, all filled with children. And so he came up with the idea of, in 6 weeks, writing a Christmas ghost story, which would be a redemption story, in essence, about somebody from this working poor middle class who learned how to truly connect with the rest of society. And just to give you an idea as to how big an impact this peculiar little story he wrote would have, it would actually outsell the Bible 3 years in a row after its publication.
Nice.
And the rate of people who donated turkeys and geese to the poor around the Christmas season would more than quadruple. And that is really just associated strongly with the publication of this book. So a big question that people tend to ask, why is it called A Christmas Carol? Because it's not a song. It's called A Christmas Carol because he felt like a simple Christmas carol. It had a really simple message that he wanted to hit home, and he wanted to have speak for a really particular group. And so he broke the book down. Instead of breaking it down into chapters, he broke it down into a series of staves or stanzas, kind of like in music how you have a stanza, and each one focuses on a different element of the story. So I personally think that it's great because I don't know about you, but I want to hear a Christmas carol that's about a sickly little crippled boy who is quickly going to the grave. But I have taken it upon myself to not only just tell you the story of A Christmas Carol, but just to twist it around a little bit, to try and make an argument as to why I think this is the greatest fictional story ever told. Because there are some people here who hate this story. Now, I don't want to name names. Ladies and gentlemen, please sit back, relax, and enjoy Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Thank you. Stave 1. Everything smells like shit. Marley was dead to begin with. Dead as a doornail. Did Scrooge know that Marley was dead? Of course he did. He was the chief witness, the sole mourner, in fact, the sole friend of the late Mr. Marley. Now, before we go any further, it must be understood that for anything wonderful to come of the tale I am about to relate, that old Jacob Marley was dead. And who was Ebenezer Scrooge, you might ask? Why, Ebenezer Scrooge was the most clutching, writhing, covetous old sinner the town of jolly old London had ever known. He was solitary as an oyster, and he was about as giving as he was kind. And so our story begins 7 Christmas Eves later, after the death of Mr. Marley, at the offices of Scrooge and Marley. Now you might ask, why would Scrooge leave the name Marley up for so long? Simply because he was too cheap to paint over the sign. And so to set the scene for you, I take you to the working house of Mr. Scrooge and Mr. Marley, where over here we have the desk of Mr. Ebenezer Scrooge and his long, suffering clerk, Mr. Bob Cratchit. Now, Mr. Cratchit had the absolute misfortune of coming to the office every day, and he would stare at his employer, and beyond his employer was a small stove top. And in that stove was one single piece of coal every morning, not enough to keep the office warm. And every night, Mr. Cratchit would see if he could make it past his employer to just reach into the flame. Cratchit! What is it that you think you are doing? Tell me, Mr. Cratchit, what are these? This is a waistcoat, Mr. Cratchit. And this is a scarf. And these are gloves. They are garments, Mr. Cratchit. Coal is combustible. Garments are outstanding. So I highly suggest that if you must keep warm, you invest in garments. I am not made of money, Mr. Cratchit. Is that understood? Yes, Mr. Scrooge. Absolutely, sir. Very much understood. Thank you. Merry Merry Christmas, Uncle! God save you! Merry Christmas! Bah! Humbug. Christmas a humbug? Well, you know you don't really mean that. Oh, but nephew, I do. Why, if I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips would be boiled in his own pudding and driven with a stake of holly through his heart. Oh, you are wicked, Uncle. Tell me, why must you be so dismal with me? Oh, why did you marry Fred? Well, I married because I fell in love. And that's why I'm here tonight. I'm here tonight as I am every year, Uncle, to extend an invitation to join us for Christmas dinner. Won't you please join us, Uncle, just this once? What good is Christmas to you, You're certainly poor enough, and you're certainly rich enough, Uncle. But I will say that while Christmas may have never put a scrap of silver or gold in my pocket, I do believe that it is a good time, a kind time, a charitable time when people look upon each other no longer as competitors, but rather as fellow passengers to the grave. And I say, God bless it. Very good, Mr. Fred. Yes, Mr. Halliwell, very, very good. Cratchit! I highly suggest that you continue with your work, unless you want to be out of a situation. Well, I don't understand why you have to be so hard on Mr. Cratchit, Uncle. But the invitation stands. You are always more than welcome to join us. So may you have a good day. Good afternoon, nephew. And a Merry Christmas. Good afternoon, nephew. And a Happy New Year. Good afternoon. Now, before we go any further, we're about to have a couple of characters walk in who I really like. They're called Seekers of Mercy, a.k.a. they're charity collectors. But this is the thing about them. They actually collect charity. They do good deeds, which is really different than what we have now. We have this really cool thing that we do now called slacktivism. Anyone ever heard that term before? Yeah, Deja, I'm looking at you right here. Deja's vibing with me right now. No, slacktivism is exactly what it sounds like. It's basically like, I'm going to share a Facebook post, and I'm just going to make pretend that that's going to fix anything. So Deja, I'm going to ask you to act for me.
Oh. Okay.
Be a little bit of an actress for me. You know you can do it. Okay. Here's what I need you to do. No, I just want you to think of something so inspirational and humbling that someone would share on Facebook, and just give me that post. Read it out to me.
Oh.
Tell me all about it.
Is it like, you want like one of those like posts where people are like one like equals one prayer?
No, just tell me an inspirational story of someone doing something good that you're sharing.
Oh, something good?
Something good that people do. Give me some inspiration, Deja.
Oh my god, I don't know. They donate to save the elephants.
They donate to save the elephants?
Yeah.
Tell me about the elephants, Deja.
The elephants?
Tell me how you're helping the elephants. I want to know.
Sanctuary. They're donating
sanctuary?
to the elephant
I have a sanctuary. Where are these elephant sanctuaries, Deja?
Where
are they?
I don't know.
You don't know where they are? Tell me, Sammy, where are the elephant sanctuaries? Where are they about? We don't know.
There's some in the United States.
There's some in the United States. Tell me about it, Pat. Tell me about it.
I'm trying to remember which state it is, like around the Arizona.
Come on, give it to me, Pat. Come on, Pat. You know you're doing good. You're doing charity for me, Pat. Come on. Come on, give it to me, Pat. Give me a like. Give me a like. Give me a like. Give me a like. The offices of a Mr. Scrooge and Mr. Marley, I presume. And do I have the distinct pleasure of addressing myself to a Mr. Scrooge or a Mr. Marley? Mr. Marley is dead, sir. In fact, he died 7 years ago this very night. Ah, I see. Well, I'm sure that his generosity lives on through his surviving partner, yes? Yes. Well, you see, it is at this festive time of the year that we wealthy like to provide the poor with means of meat and drink. And seeing as you are so well situated yourself, we were simply wondering how much we could put you down for. Nothing. Oh, you wish to remain anonymous then? I wish to be left alone. I do not make myself merry at Christmas, gentlemen. I cannot afford to make idle people merry. But, sir, the poor of London, sir, gentlemen. Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses? And the union treadmills, are they still in full operation? Well, gentlemen, my taxes go to support the fine establishments I have mentioned. And so if the poor are in need of meat and drink, I suggest they go there. Oh, but Mr. Scrooge, Many would rather die than go there. Well, then if they are going to die, perhaps they had better do it and decrease the surplus population. Good afternoon, gentlemen. My clerk will see you out. Yes. Come back this way, Jim. God bless you, too. Oh, Mr. Scrooge. Sir, there's a child at the door, Mr. Scrooge. Dismiss him at once. No, you don't understand. I think he wants to sing a Christmas carol to you. He is collecting, sir. Christmas is coming, the goose is getting fat. Please put a penny in the old man's hat. Away with him at once, Mr. Cratchit. Christmas is coming, the goose is getting fat. Please put a penny in the old man's hat. I said away at once. Christmas is coming, the goose is getting fat. Please, damn it, child, away with you at once. Children, picking about the streets like beggars. Humbug it is, a humbug. The hour drew. Fog rolled over the city of London, and the night lamps were lit. And as he did every day, Mr. Cratchit made his way to the wall to give his employer his coat. You'll be wanting tomorrow off, I suppose. But it's quite convenient, Mr. Scrooge. It is not convenient, but it isn't fair. Christmas, no more than a pitiful excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th December. But I suppose that if you must have your time off, you may go home, and out of fear of being ill-used, I will even give you your pay. But be sure to come earlier the next day. Is that understood, Mr. Cratchit? Yes, sir. Very good, sir. Understood. And so Mr. Scrooge made his way out into the streets to return to his home. And it's at this point that I would like to give you an idea as to what exactly Scrooge's London would have looked like. So the thing that most people know is that London really had two social classes. There was the aristocracy, the people who didn't work, and then there was the working poor, the people who worked or unfortunately were not working. But those who were in the lower working class knew that there were actually three classes because there was a rather comfortable middle class that was right in the middle. But what's so interesting about this is that there really weren't as many London slums as you would think. Rather, people just lived on top of each other. And so as Scrooge made his way home, he would notice the humble whore. He would notice the clergyman, the humble whore. He would notice the tradesman, the humble whore. He would notice all of the artisans, and of course, the humble whore on the same street corner she frequented every night. Monk. And Scrooge made his way up to his doorstep as he did every night. And as he looked upon the great bronze knocker that greeted him, he noticed that it wasn't the knocker that he had come accustomed to. Rather, there was a face that was once quite known to Scrooge, but with eyes that were now sunken in and bloodshot and Jacob Marley? I'm overworked. I'm underfed, underslept. I'm going to bed. And Scrooge did make his way up the staircase, but tonight he did one thing that he typically did not do. He lit a candle, and he walked through the great house. And he searched out every single chamber. Now, this was a house that Scrooge had inherited from his late partner. It held many, many chambers, but each one, aside from his bedroom, was completely and utterly it's a mere fit of indigestion is what it is. Find myself a pot of gruel, to calm the stomach and whatnot. Come now. Who is there? Show yourself. Show yourself at once. And then through the door came a form, a specter, quite familiar to Scrooge. It was a man that he had once known, and he wore a great waistcoat, and his hair was tied up in a tight ponytail. And around his waist was a great iron coil that was clad with strong boxes, with padlocks and keys, with ledgers and books. And on his face were the same red bloodshot eyes that he had seen before on the knocker. This was a face quite familiar to Scrooge. It was the face of his late partner, Mr. Marley. Come now. What do you want of me? March. Tell me, who are you? Ask me not who I am, but who I was, all right? Who were you then? In life, I was your partner. Jacob Marley. Scrooge, my dear Scrooge, humbug. I won't believe in it. Why, you're no more than a bit of indigestion. Yes, you're just an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crew of cheese, an underdone potato. Why, there's more gravy than grave about you, whatever you are. Man of the worldly mind, do you believe in me or not? Of course I do. I mean, I must, but tell me, spirit, why do spirits walk the earth? And why do they trouble me? It is required of every man that the spirit within him should walk far and broad among his fellow men. And if he fails to do so in life, he is condemned to do so after death. Jacob, you are fettered. Tell me why. I wear the chain I forged in life. I made it link by link and yard by yard. I made it of my own free will. And of my own free will, I wore it. Oh, Scrooge! Woe is me, Scrooge, woe is me! In life my spirit never left the narrow limits of our money-changing hole. But I don't understand, Jacob. Why should you suffer? You were always such a good man of business. Business! Business! Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, benevolence, and mercy were all my business. And it is at this time of the rolling year that I suffer the most. Why was it in life that I would walk through crowds with my head turned down from that beautiful star that led red to the baby in the cradle? Can you even imagine the weight and the length of the strong coil you bear yourself? It was as heavy and as full of this 7 Christmas Eves ago. You have labored on it since. It is a ponderous chain. Oh, mercy, mercy, Jacob, please speak comfort to me. I have none to give. Comfort comes from nobler sources. I have been sent here tonight as part of my penance to warn you that you have but one final chance and hope of escaping my fate. Oh, thank ye, Jacob, thank ye. You were always a good friend to me. Ebenezer Scrooge, you will be visited by 3 spirits. Was that the chance and hope that you were speaking of, Jacob? I think I'd rather not. Expect the first tonight when the bell tolls 1. Expect the second upon the next night at the same hour. And the third will come upon the next night when the last stroke of 12 has ceased to vibrate. Look to see me no more. And for your own sake and your own salvation, do not forget what has passed between us. And out into the night air the phantom flew, and the air was littered with phantoms. Each one wore heavy chains like Marley's ghost. Some of them were chained together at the waist, presumably guilty governments and life. And there was one specter that was quite familiar to Scrooge, an associate, in fact, who had a great, massive iron safe that was shackled to his ankle. He looked down upon a beggar woman swandling her child, and he tried to intervene. He wanted so miserably to do good in human affairs, but he had forever lost the power. That was the curse these phantoms bore. Heavy shit, right? Right? But that's what I love so much about this, is that Jacob Marley was not a great king. He was not a political leader. He was not someone with a great amount of money. He was a middle-class loan shark. He was somebody that was no different than any other common man. And that's the thing, is that I can't say that there isn't a part of me that sympathizes or empathizes with him a bit, because when you really look at it, we don't know what his backstory is. We don't know where he comes from. And if I was living in Dickensian London, I'd probably be pissed off by the fact that everything smelled like shit. See?
Probably this one.
Probably this one. Thank you.
Peter.
Save 2. ... or the solitary vice. When last we left off, Scrooge had returned to his chair, unable to sleep from the visit he had just had. And he waited there as the chime of 1 rang. All right. Oh, Jacob Marley, foolish in death as you were in life. Spirits. Bah. And then suddenly, through the window came a great, white, blinding light. And the specter that flew in was a man, but it was also a woman. But it was a great elderly person, but it was also a child. And the spirit held in one hand a branch of holly, and in the other an extinguisher cap, like one might use to douse a candle. Tell me then, are you the spirit whose coming was foretold to me? I am. Tell me, who are you then? I am the ghost of Christmas past. Long past? No. Your past. Spirit, the light that you give, it is blinding. Could you douse it with the extinguisher cap you have, foolish mortal? Would you so quickly douse the light I give? For my light is the light of truth that illuminates even the darkest crevices of the human mind. Now, rise and walk with me. Spirit, Spirit, you lead me to the window. I am mortal and I will fall, aye. But with a touch of my hand, you shall be upheld in more ways than this. Now come with me, Ebenezer. Come and see your childhood come to life. Why, Spirit, I know this place. I was bred here. Why, there's my old schoolhouse, and there's the miller's pond where me and the boy... Thomas! Hello there, Thomas! And that's Jonathan, and Spirit, why can't they see me? These are but shadows of the things that have been. They cannot hear nor see us, for we are as invisible and as silent as a grave. Now, can you walk me to your schoolhouse? Walk you? I could do it blindfolded. Tell me, man, where are those children going? Why, it is the Christmas holiday. They're going home to their families. Aye, but not all of the children have gone, for there There in the schoolhouse, I see a solitary lad, a child, neglected by his family. Do you know him? That child, Spirit, is me. Why were you left so alone? When I was born, my mother died. My father could no longer bear the sight of me and sent me away as soon as he could. But I was not completely alone. I didn't need family. I didn't need friends. I had my books. I had my Aladdin and his wonderful lamp. I had my Ali Baba. Poor child. What is that I see upon your cheek? It's nothing. It's just, he was so lonely. Let us see another Christmas. It is the same schoolroom, but the boy has grown into a young man. This would be the last Christmas that he would spend in this schoolhouse. Brother! Brother! Oh, brother! Oh, Fan, is that really you? Oh, yes, brother, it is me, brother. Oh, brother, you are to come home for the Christmas holiday. But I don't understand. Father, oh, you don't understand, Ebenezer. Father is so much kinder now. I went to him the other night and I said, please, Father, can't brother come home just this once? And he said yes, and we are to spend 3 glorious days together. Oh, my little Fan. I promise you, as long as I shall live, we will never be separated for this long again. She was a kind woman, your sister. She was. She had a very large heart. Too large, in fact. She died in childbirth. She died giving birth to my nephew, Fred. I do not see him. Because just like your father and you cannot bear the sight of your sister's son. Why do you show me such dreadful moments, Spirit? Let me go to learn from the past. Look upon it, Ebenezer. Understand the present. Aye, but it wasn't all so bad. Come, let us see a jollier Christmas. Do you know this place? Do I know this place? Why, Fezziwig's warehouse. I was apprenticed here, you know, and why, there's myself. Oh, look at me and my partner, Jacob Marley. Oh, how young we were, and Mr. Fezziwig himself. Come around, boys, come around. Off we go now. Put away all the books and ledgers. Enough work for the day. A Merry Christmas, my lad. For you, Mr. Marley, I have this. And Mr. Dick Wilkins for you. And of course, Master Ebenezer Scrooge. Here you are, sir. Do not spend it all at once. I shan't, Mr. Fezziwig. I intend to make my fortune and keep it. Well, that's very noble of you, lad. Yes, I am saving my money for a rainy day. A rainy day, my boy? Why, this is England. It rains every day. Why, that's Mrs. Fezziwig. Oh, how kind they were. And once a year they held the most glorious Christmas ball. Now, my friends, my loved ones, welcome to Fezziwig's annual Christmas ball. Shall I give you a song?
Sure.
Yes!
Go for it!
Oh, my, what a catastrophe. 6 nuns stuck in a lavatory. They were there from Thursday to Saturday. Nobody knew they were there. That doesn't really ring, I think, with you guys. The thing was that, Christmas was a time. It was more of like a festive holiday, and it was kind of more like trying to find the best way to describe it. It's like a festival almost, a seasonal festival. And people got pretty dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that, you look at all of these old songs that are included in these Dickens novels and the likes, and I'm just going to give you something that is more contemporary, but we'll give you an idea as to something that Mr. Fezziwig would have sang. There once was a farmer who sat on a rock, spent the whole day stroking his cute little puppy that was a twit. The boys in the barnyard were shoveling stuff in a barnyard and much more galore. The girl down the street, she looked like a proper young lady who walked like a duck. She told all the boys she wanted to fuck. Thank you. Such a small matter to make these silly folks so happy. Small! He was our employer. He had the choice to make our workload high or to make it group. You stop. It's nothing. I just wish I could have a word with my clerk, Bob Cratchit, right about now. Look, man, over there. Look who's walking in. Belle. Oh, spirit, you delight in torturing me. Hi, Belle. The life of your life. Belle, I have something I've been meaning to give you, Belle. Oh, Ebenezer. Yes, Ebenezer. Of course, I'll marry you. Now, I know it isn't much, but I promise I will work, and I will work hard, and I will save, and I will make sure that you never long for anything, Ebenezer. I require nothing of you. As long as I am with you, I will be happy. She made you very happy, Ebenezer. She did. Come, let us leave this place. And let me take you now to the offices of Scrooge and Marley, a newly minted firm, where a young Scrooge sits behind his desk. It is the same man we saw before, but now the light has left his eyes, and the hard edge of life has taken its toll. And there stands your precious, long-suffering Belle. Another idol has replaced me, Ebenezer. A golden one. What reason have I ever given you to believe that? In words, never. But in a changed demeanor. In your actions, Ebenezer. Oh, tell me, my love. Our promise is an old one, an aging one. And if you had met me today, a poor spinster, left penniless by the death of both her parents, would you seek after me? That's what I thought. Then here. It is with a heart full of love for the man I once loved that I give you your ring. And may you forever be happy in the life you have chosen. No. Belle! Belle! Go after her. Go after her, damn it, you always regret it. Go after her, but you didn't. Go after her. And the years flew by. Damn you, spirit. Leave me at once. There is more to see. Leave me, spirit. Haunt me no longer, high, foolish man. But these are the shadows of the things that have been. That they are what they are. Do not blame me. They are what they are. Damn you, spirit. They are what they are. Damn you. Truth lives. Truth lives now. And he took the extinguisher cap from the spirit's hand. And he doused the very essence of the spirit until it was no more. And Scrooge found himself in his bedchambers yet again. So yeah, sex. Let's talk about sex now. Something that people don't know is that Dickensian English people were very, very horny. So I did a little bit of research because I was just curious as to, no. Did you think that they just like walked around singing Pop Goes the Weasel while they wore like big beautiful dresses and they wanted to fuck. Everyone wants to fuck. But here's the thing about them was that the English were actually much bigger on premarital sex than they were on masturbation. The worst thing you could do was actually masturbation. There's this Dutch concept called the solitary vice, which is basically this belief that masturbation would lead to the downfall of humanity. As it does. It's nothing extreme, because we all know that both the man and the woman have to orgasm in order for a girl to get pregnant. That's what they actually believed. They seriously believed that.
Wow. Let me get orgasm.
What?
In England, orgasm.
It was a big deal.
Oh my God.
It was a big deal.
Encouraged.
Stage 3. Tiny Tim has a limp dick. The hour rang again. The hour rang again. And there was no spirit. But there under the door, Scrooge saw but the smallest light. And he walked through the door into his parlor. And it was his parlor, but it was now filled with the most delectable treats. There were suckling pigs, great geese, turkeys, great big bowls of warm punch, and pears, and grapes, and apples, and the entire room was daubed with holly. And there in the center, on a great mountain of food, sat a great jolly giant, who held a torch in one hand, and a scabbard around his waist, with no sword in it. Come in, come in, come and know me better, man. You have never seen the likes of me before, have you? Why, have you not walked forth with one of my brothers? I have over 1,845. Well, that sounds like it would be a large family to provide for. That is how you would see it, Ebenezer. That is how you would see it. Tell me, Spirit, I am confused. You wear a scabbard around your waist, but there is no sword. Why is that? Peace on earth, goodwill towards man now, man. Come, touch my robe, and walk with me. And Scrooge found himself now in the streets of London, but only now it was Christmas Day. And he watched as the richest of the rich and the poorest of the poor celebrated the holiday together. And Scrooge noticed that the spirit would walk through the crowd, and he would take ashes from the torch, and he would sprinkle them upon the people walking by. But in particular, he would sprinkle them upon the poor. Tell me, Spirit, why do you waste that ash upon the poor? Well, it is not ash. It's Christmas spirit, Ebenezer. And sometimes the poor need it most. And look here. Is this home known to you? Well, I'm happy to say that I am not particular to an area like this. No, I do not know. Whose residence is this? Why, this is the residence of your own clerk, Ebenezer, of Mr. Bob Cratchit. Look in there, Ebenezer. And Scrooge looked through the window, and he saw Mrs. Cratchit preparing a small feast. And he saw the small Cratchit children all running around her. And then through the door, in came Bob Cratchit himself, and upon his shoulder, the tiniest Cratchit of all, young Master Tiny Tim. Hello, my dears, hello, my dears. Oh, Tim, I'll put you down. And who do we have here? Why, we have young Martha Cratchit, and we have Belinda Cratchit, and we have good Master Peter Cratchit. There we go. And of course, young Tiny Tim. Bob, oh Bob, tell me, how was Tim in church? Well, it's quite interesting. But I feel as though he spends so much time alone that he comes up with the most interesting thoughts. He told me that he hoped that the other people saw him, so that they would know who made blind men see and lame beggars walk. Bob, he is truly precious. Do not worry, my love. He will get strong again, and he will celebrate Christmas in good health this time next year. But Scrooge looked upon the small feast that the Cratchit family had, and he scoffed. Oh, quite a small feast to feed such a large brood. It's all Bob Cratchit can afford. Now, pay attention, man. Well, I would like to propose a toast to the founder of our feast, Mr. Ebenezer Scrooge, the founder of the feast, Bob. The founder of the feast. Why, I wish I had him here right now. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast upon. Now then, dear, the children, Christmas? Well, it should be Christmas when anyone drinks to the health of such an odious ogre as a Mr. Ebenezer Scrooge, but I will drink to his health, for your sake and the children's and the holidays. To Mr. Ebenezer Scrooge, may he be very merry wherever he is. To Mr. Ebenezer Scrooge! And everyone said, God bless Mr. Scrooge. And young Tim Cratchit said, God bless us, everyone.
God bless us, everyone.
Yay!
Spirit, what is wrong with that child? Is he ill? And he was so terribly frail. He was so weak. Close to death, the child was. And yet he still summoned the strength to say, hurrah for Christmas, as loud as he possibly could.
Hurrah for Christmas!
And he found the strength to say as loud as he could, hurrah for Christmas.
Hurrah for Christmas!
The Spirit took Scrooge throughout all of England. He went out onto the sea where he saw sailors away from their families celebrating together on turbulent waters. He went to the debtor's prison where he saw those who wanted their freedom still find something to be thankful for. And finally, the Spirit took him to yet another residence that was quite unknown to him. Spirit, whose home is this? Why, this is the home of your very own nephew, your nephew Fred Scrooge. And nephew Fred was entertaining his party guests as he began to prepare for a rousing round of party games. Now then, my family, my loved ones, and my friends, now that we have had our Christmas pudding and our Christmas punch, it's about time that we play a rousing rendition of Blind Man's Bluff.
I love this game.
Now, who shall I choose? Now then, family, you can hold this for me, dear.
Okay. The smarter way.
There we go. Now then, I shall pick one of you, eeny, meeny, miny, you. Now, we shall come up here. Come up here, come up here. We shall play a rousing rendition of Blind Man's Bluff. Can you see?
No.
You cannot see. Now, you will make your way down here. Thank you, my love. You will come down here, and you down here, fun sir. Now, fine, sir. Now, here is how this shall work. We shall count to 3. I shall turn Pat around 3 times, and then Pat shall try to tag one of you. And you must stay in this general area. Are we ready? Pat, I shall navigate with you. Are we ready?
Am I?
Set. 1, 2, 3, and go! Go, 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 go.
Okay.
Stay in this area.
What?
Go, go, go.
Who, me? Oh, shit. What?
Oh,
my God. Oh, God.
Yes, we have a winner. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I had to get out.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, no, I didn't do that.
Now then, my dear friends, I should like to call upon my wife, Mrs. Halliwell, Sally. I'd like to call upon you for a rousing game of charades. Oh, charades, Fred. Well, all right. Is it a vegetable? No. A mineral? No. Animal? Oh, it's an animal. Rather like a man. Like a beast. Oh, it's like a beast. Is it a pig? Oh, it's like a pig. Is it an ape? A great ape, Fred. Oh, it's like an ape. Is it an ass? Oh, rather like an ass. Rather like an ass. A great ape. A pig. Why, it's your Uncle Scrooge! Fred, I truly don't understand why it is that you invite him here every year. I invite him here in the hopes that one year he will come. While I may have never known my mother, I know that she was very fond of my uncle. And so for her sake, I'd like to have a relationship with him. Scrooge found himself back in his bedchambers. And as he looked upon the Spirit of Christmas Present, he noticed that he had aged. Spirit, you have aged. Are spirits' lives really so short? My time upon this earth is but one night. It ends at midnight tonight. Spirit, there, under your robe, is that a hand? No. Or is it a claw? It might as well be a claw for what little scraps of flesh there are. Look here, man. Look upon these children. This boy is ignorance. This girl is want. Beware them both. But most of all, beware the boy. For ignorance will be mankind's doom. But are there no charities? No resources? Are there no prisons? Are there no work houses? Spirit, you use my own words to mock me. Why? Tell me, man. Who are you to decide who shall live and who shall die? Did you ever think that in the eyes of God, your life might be worth less than millions? Tell me, Spirit. That boy, that child, will he live? I see an empty place at the Cratchit table, and a crutch carefully preserved at the mantel. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die. But if he's going to die, he had better do it and decrease the surplus population. Is that not right, man spirit? Please, please tell me that there is a way in the hour rain. And the spirit was gone, and Scrooge stood all alone until the 12th final stroke of midnight chimed. I am in the presence of the Spirit of Christmas yet to come. And you are going to show me shadows of the things that haven't been, but that will be in the time before us. Please understand that I know your purpose is to do me good, and so conduct me where you will. I will follow. And Scrooge made his way down a dark passage that led to the Royal Stock Exchange, where he saw associates of his all gathered around. Why, the Stock Exchange, Spirit. This is a place I am quite accustomed to. It is rather like a second home. So then tell me, when did he die? Well, I don't know when exactly he died. All I know is that he's dead. Well, I'm sure that it's going to be a meager funeral. I can't imagine anyone who would want to be in attendance. I don't know about that. I might go if a free lunch were provided. Spirit, why do these men speak so illy of the dead? And Scrooge found himself standing in yet another strange place. Old Joe's bottle and rag shop. A thrift shop, Spirit. What are we doing here? Well, that's my scullery maid. Well, that's Mrs. Dilbert. Oh, Joe! Oh, Joe! Well, I told you I'd be coming around here today. The old bugger finally kicked it, you know. Now then, let's see what I was able to scavenge. Here we have his bed curtains. And we have his cufflinks, pure gold after all they are. Oh. His shirt. I took it right off his back with him lying there, I did. How don't you go off like that? It's not like he died of anything catching. Oh, good riddance to bad rubbish or whatever. Let me tell you, in his final days, he allowed no one to be around. There he laid, wheezing and hacking away his gasping last breaths. Well, I never cared for the old bastard much anyway. Spirit! Who is this man who is so unmourned? Let me see! And Scrooge now found himself standing in his bedchamber. And there was the bed. And in the bed was a corpse. But over the corpse was a linen, so that Scrooge could not see who it was. And the spirit gestured for Scrooge to approach the linen and pull it back. But he found himself too weak to do so. Spirit, I wish I could pull it back. Truly I do. But before I do, could you show me some sentiment connected to this man's death? Just any bit of emotion. And Scrooge found himself now standing in a home in which he had accredited the mortgage. And the home was completely barren of furniture. And there was a young woman with her child, and her husband walked through the door. Please tell me, Albert, are we done for? Are we going to lose our home, Albert? Tell me, is he going to relent? He's past relenting now. He's dead. What? You mean he's dead? But that means that the mortgage will be transferred over into someone else's name, and by then, we will surely have the money. Oh, Albert. Albert, who knew that a death could bring so much joy? Oh, Spirit! Spirit, please. Please show me suffering. Show me suffering connected to a death. Anyone, Spirit, anyone. And he found himself now standing in the Cratchit home again. And there was the Cratchit family gathered around a single candle as young Peter Cratchit read verse from the Bible. And through the door walked Mr. Cratchit, alone, no one resting on his shoulder. Hello? Hello, my dears. Yes. Bob. Bob, you didn't go back, did you? Bob, I told you you need to stop, I know. I just couldn't bring myself to. It is such a lovely grave, right next to the duck pond. I promised him I'd visit him every Sunday after church. Come here, my dears. Please, promise me one thing. No matter where life may take us, when we are eventually torn apart from each other, may we never forget our tiny Tim. My child. My little child. Bob. Bob, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Spirit, that man who went unmourned, show me his grave. And Scrooge found himself standing in St. Paul's Cemetery, and ahead of him was a grave covered in snow. And as he made his way to the grave, he heard the voices of all he had ever known. He heard his late sister. He heard his lost Belle. And he even heard the laughter of the young late Tiny Tim. And Scrooge made his way to the grave, and he uncovered the snout. Here lies Ebenezer Scrooge. Am I the man, Spirit? Am I the man who went so unloved? Who gave so little? Spirit, please understand, I'm not the man I was. I can do better. I will carry the lessons of the past, the present, and the future. I will hold Christmas in my heart all through the year. Just please, please tell me that I may sponge away the writing on this stone. Please, Spirit. Spirit, I beg you. Spirit, please. My bed sheets. My bed chamber. The curtains. The bed curtains are still here. I'm alive. I'm alive! I am alive! I'm as giddy as a schoolboy. I'm as charmed as an angel. Why, there's the window that Jacob Marley threw out, and there's the chair with the spirit of Christmas present, and oh, what day is it? What day is it? What? You there, boy! What day is it? What day is it? Why, it's Christmas Day, sir. It's Christmas Day, sir. And the spirits must have done it. Why, they must have done it all in one night. Well, of course they can. Of course they can. They can do whatever they want. Tell me, young boy. Do you know the Poulterers? Well, I should hope I did. Well, I should hope I did. A smart boy. A remarkable boy. It is a pleasure to talk to him. Tell me, boy. Do you know the prize turkey that hangs in the window? Is it still hanging there? The one as big as me, the one as big as you. Yes, the one as big as you. I want you to go down there, and I want you to get it. I want you to bring it right here. And if you get it in 15 minutes, I will give you 3 shillings. And if you get it in 5 minutes, I will give you half a crown. How does that sound? Oh, and boy, keep the change. Oh, and a Merry Christmas. I'm alive on the streets, out into the streets. Gentlemen, I am so sorry for yesterday. I want you to know that I'm going to endeavor to help your charitable cause, and that you can expect a check from me on the 1st of every month from now on. And yes, boy, you have made it back. You have made it back with the prize turkey. And Cabby, yes, I want you to take this prized goose to the home of a Master Cratchit. And when you get there, I want you to tell him that it's from Anonymous. No, tell him it's anonymous. I don't want it to be known. I have other plans that I must attend to on this day, and this day only. Bless my soul. Uncle, is that really you? Yes, nephew. It is me. Will you kindly let an old sinner in to your home? Oh, Uncle, this is your home. Sally! Well, what is it, Fred? Uncle Scrooge. Oh, welcome, Uncle, but I don't know if Fred has told you, but we are with child, and if it's a girl, we're going to name her Fan. After my sister. Yes. Bless you both. Truly, bless you both. And the Christmas that he celebrated that day was the merriest of Christmases he would ever know. And the next day, back at the offices of Scrooge and Marley, keep in mind that Scrooge had told Bob Cratchit to be there all the earlier the next day, and it was already 10 past the hour, and no Cratchit in sight. Pardon me, Mr. Scrooge. Mr. Scrooge, I am indeed so sorry. It's just with the holiday yesterday. And Cratchit! I told you to be in all the earlier the next day. It's 10 past the hour. And so do you know what I am going to do? I am going to raise your salary. And I am going to endeavor to help your struggling family from now on. Mr. Scrooge, I don't understand. Oh, Merry Christmas, Bob. A merrier Christmas than I have wished you in many and many a year. And we are going to make sure that young Tiny Tim gets well again. But before we do that, I am going to ask that you please go down to the corner shop and that you please go and pick up some coal. It is freezing. And so he was better than his word. Not only did he hold Christmas on that day, but he held it throughout the year. And it was often said that there was no one else who knew how to celebrate the holiday more so than Mr. Ebenezer Scrooge. And as for Tiny Tim, thank you. As for Tiny Tim, who did not die, Scrooge became a second father. And it was often said that there was never a happier family known to any. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone. Thank you.